Express Halftime Report is brought to you by American Express, the official card of the NBA.
Giannis and the Bucks trying to make the Raptors fear the deer. Ahead 2-0 in this series this year. But it's just a one-point game at the break. In the first game between these two teams this season, Giannis, Kawhi did not play. Second game, both kind of held under the wraps with Kawhi scoring 20, Giannis scoring 18. And in the first half tonight, Giannis with 18, Kawhi with 17. This is what we've been waiting for, these two star players scoring a lot and being effective.
This is definitely what you want. When you have two great players like this, you want to see them put their talents on display. You want it to be a game where both of them shine. And that's what we're getting in the first half. Giannis is playing well, Kawhi's playing well, and it's a treat. And it's one of those things that you love to see. Here you have Greek Freak ISO'd one-on-one against Siakam. One-on-one, there's nothing really he can do. Siakam is long and athletic, but the Greek Freak has too much space, too much room down here. Then you see right here, getting out in transition, running, taking his time, and you know he's going to finish strong and finish right at the rim. And now he's showing the diversity in this game because now he's leading the fast break. He sees the lane, attacks that rim. So what I like about these highlights is we're seeing Giannis all over the court doing different things. Right here, this is just a grown man rebound, bully ball right after the dunk, bouncing up. And now you see him initiating the screen, goes straight to the left, gets back to that right hand. Giannis can do it all. He can finish on the break, he can lead the break, he can rebound. And the best thing about him is when he sees an area and he sees space, he attacks it immediately.
And those clips are a really good example of it, but Giannis is the one who's benefiting the most. It's been an assault at the rim for Milwaukee in this first half. 28 points in the paint. They're getting right to the cup. That offensive rebound and putback, there's nobody in the lane 6'10 or bigger. They've taken advantage of the fact that Toronto is playing smaller in the absence of Jonas a little bit here.
When you look at the rebounding numbers, Giannis is out-rebounding Toronto's front line 9-7. Is that something we overlook with his game because we're always talking about the three-point shot or whether or not he's scoring in the paint? But rebounding, at times, he's been dominant. This seems like one of those games with 9 rebounds in the first half. Yeah,
he can be dominant as a rebounder. He's also dominant as a playmaker. I mean, it's what makes him so special. He can literally, every time he steps on the floor, offer the potential for a triple-double, and you can feed off of him if he's not scoring. And one of the big reasons for it is because he's got the ability to grab those rebounds we saw in traffic. He rebounds out of his area. He's not a guy who's a space rebounder. He's just going to be bigger than you, longer than you, and go get one.
And that is a great part of his aspect of his game is because we talk about a lot of guys that are two-way players. He's a three-way player. He can score the basketball, he can defend, and then he can be a monster on the glass. He averages 13 rebounds a game. There's a lot of centers in this league playing 30 minutes or more that don't get that many rebounds. So it just tells you how diverse his game is, how many different ways he can help you win. And that's what winning is all about when we start talking about positionless basketball. When you have a guy that you can say, hey, he might can get you 40 or 50 on a given night, but if he's not scoring, he can help you defensively. Oh, and if he's not doing it defensively, he might get you 17, 18, 20 rebounds. That's what you're looking for in a star player.
So much focus on Kawhi, so much focus on Giannis. Kyle Lowry not in this game, one of your assist leaders in the NBA this year. Fred VanVleet stepping up. Great for the Raptors in the first half, but we saw him down towards the end of the half with an injury. 3 for 3 from outside. If he's not back in the second half or is not fully effective, what do the Raptors do?
Well, they'll probably lean on DeLon Wright, and DeLon Wright's a fine young player in this league, but that's a step down from VanVleet, who I think is probably the best backup point guard in this league, and DeLon is not a natural point guard. He has talent, he has size, he has ability with the ball, but I think Toronto offensively takes a step back if they don't have VanVleet, and on top of that, they already don't have Kyle Lowry, so being down to your third-string point guard normally hurts the offense, and it puts a lot of pressure on guys like Kawhi to try to do even more.
And it really changes the dynamic here because they don't have Kyle. Their closing lineup very often is both Kyle and VanVleet. Yeah. So it's not just that they're going to rely on DeLon, it's that they can't put their best closing lineup on the floor at all.
That's a great point, Griffin. We'll look for that in the closeout of this game to see what lineup they do end up going with. Kawhi Leonard bouncing back after that loss to the Spurs last night. And the Raptors pull it out over the Bucks. Nikola Jokic had himself a game. 39 points, a season high for him. And that's not the best part of his game, Griffin. It's the passing. It's the ability to rebound, get the extra shot. I mean, just an impressive overall performance for the Nuggets big man.
One of the plays they showed there was a big-to-big Jokic dropping it down to Miles Plumlee. Because Jokic is their primary playmaker and they don't need to keep a point guard on the floor, they've been able to play big-to-big a lot this year. They can play an enormous lineup out there with Paul Millsap on the court, with Juancho Hernan-Gomez, with Jokic, with Torrey Craig. They've kept a lot of size on the court, so at the end of games, they tend to overwhelm some teams on the defensive side, and they have absolutely picked up what Coach Malone is trying to do.
You said overwhelmed. How about this is an underwhelming ending? Jazz head by 3 final seconds.
What was that?
Reggie Jackson throws the interception.
And Blake is overwhelmingly disappointed.
So is Dwayne Casey.
Wait a minute, how many points were they down?
3.
Okay.
About 10 seconds to go.
Interesting situation.
Blake Griffin, 34 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. Andre Drummond, 15 points, 18 rebounds. And of course, Blake Griffin did not have the ball in his hands, and he's a point forward. That's the guy you want bringing the ball up the court there, right there.
It is, and again, it's another example of how badly they miss Ish Smith. They are absolutely not the same team in any way when Ish is not available to them.
That's extreme talent.
How do you learn how to balance a grill on your mouth?
Hard.
Time to double up on the dinosaurs. Sunday, right here on NBA TV, Toronto Raptors, Indiana Pacers. Game starts at 7:30, but make sure you tune in before that, 7 o'clock for the Auto Trader pregame show. And of course, the dinosaurs playing right now against the Milwaukee Bucks. They're just at the half, 1-point game with Milwaukee on top. And we're just going to circle at points in the paint there, Griff. Okay, because Raptors playing good defense in the paint, but still not able to stop what's happening.
Yeah, and if Milwaukee had not uncharacteristically given away 10 turnovers in that half, they've been so good in terms of ball control. They've been really good in limiting opponents' fast break opportunities, and neither one of those were particularly good in the first half, and they're still in the position they're in. I think this sets up rather well for Milwaukee moving forward, particularly if Van Vliet can't come back.
Yeah, for me, depending on who wins the second half, a lot of it's going to be determined by Van Vliet's health and availability.
Also back on the court tonight against the Sacramento Kings, Griff, we know net rating is one of your favorite stats. How telling is it that the Warriors have the lowest net rating they've had over the last 5 years this particular season?
I don't think terribly so, because if you would have spotted someone at this time in the year, the injury situation they would have dealt with, the inability they had to get Draymond and Steph on the court together, I think you would have had to assume that it wouldn't look very good. What concerns me about it, though, is that this team doesn't have the depth it had even last year. So they're going to have to continue to get incredible production from the starters and hope that somebody steps to the fore on the bench. That team is really missing, and I think one of the reasons the net ratings suffer so much, they are really missing the vertical spacing element of Damian Jones and or JaVale McGee. And in the absence of those guys, they need to find it, because it's really difficult for their offense to flow as smoothly if you don't have to honor the dive.
You know salaries better than me. How much did the Lakers pay JaVale McGee?
It's a great question. I don't know the answer.
It wasn't a high salary,
It was
right?
not a lot.
Sometimes you never miss a good thing until it's gone. I think JaVale McGee was taken for granted to a certain degree. He obviously has shown that if given more opportunity, he can play out, he can stay out there on the court. They never really believed in him, and now they truly miss him. I know Damian Jones played that role for a while, but when you have an athletic roller like Damian Jones, JaVale McGee, or for Houston, a Clint Capella, guys like that, when they screen and roll, they mean so much to your team offensively because they activate the weak side of the defense. Those guys roll down the lane weak side defenders understand I have to meet this guy early and up in the lane or else he's going to be dunking on my head. You don't have to do the same thing with guys that aren't quite as athletic. You can rotate to them later. But when those guys have to rotate up the lane, what that does is it creates those passes to the corner. It creates guys cutting back door for lobs. It creates a lot of ball movement on the weak side, and you miss that when guys like JaVale McGee and Damian Williams are not on this team. Throwing the fact that Draymond Green, when he's struggling shooting the ball this year, it really means they're struggling at the 5 spot.
So you're saying minimum for JaVale McGee was money well spent? That's what he makes, $1.5 million.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Basically, they didn't realize they had a good thing. And JaVale McGee is, I'm not going to say he has a lot of haters, but JaVale McGee has been miscast, and a lot of people think that he isn't intelligent or he isn't this and he isn't that. He's been cast a certain way. I played with him. He's very intelligent. He's a hard worker. He's a good rim runner, and now he's gotten great coaching and he does what he does well. And I think that Golden State messed up by not bringing him back, especially at that low of a number.
Well, and they may have wanted to. Maybe he wasn't willing to play in Golden for minimum, and he felt better about the Lakers situation.
Did they have more than the minimum? I mean, listen, I'm not saying pay the man $25 million, but did you have $3 or did you have $5 million for JaVale McGee? He was a major part of your championship team.
They didn't even match Patrick McCaw now because it was $11.6 million in space.
I will say this, going back to JaVale, in the NBA Finals, he had some very impactful minutes on the defensive end when he would switch the screen and roll. He was sliding his feet very well with LeBron James.
Well, we know that Golden State, it's defensively that they've struggled a little bit more this year as opposed to offensively. The Kings and Warriors, both in the top 5 in scoring and pace this season, on average, combining to score over 230 points a game. Over under. We're going to see 230 tonight between these two teams.
Blue Horseshoe says take the over.
I'm going with Griff. I'm going over as well.
I don't know who Blue Horseshoe is, but I think that you know what you're talking about.
Is that your bookie, Griff?
It's a movie reference. We'll fill you in on it later.
Okay, is he betting on the Bucks or the Raptors? That's the interesting question tonight as those two teams set to take the court right here on NBA TV at 8:30.